And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and welcome to our podcast. I have with me today one of the best, not only on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. He's always been gracious with his time with me, always greets me with a big smile. The one and only Jurie Van Vuuren. Jurie, welcome to the show. How you feeling, brother?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be on your show finally.
Yeah, no, I know. We've been talking about it for a while, and I feel it's almost as eagerly anticipated as you coming back to the pitch for RFCLA. Coming back, this is what, game two for you? Coming back now onto the pitch since your injury?
One, two, three. Game
Three,
three
game
going
three.
into game
Okay.
four. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to see you back in the RCLA uniform on the pitch. We'll go more into details about that. I do want to talk about you with your recovery because I know it wasn't an easy one. So I do feel like that's a story there that can inspire a lot of sports players that are listening to the podcast, people that are aspiring to maybe pick up the rugby ball. So it'll be a great story that we can kind of dive into.
Yeah, yeah. Happy to share with you guys.
All right. So first of all, now Jurie, obviously, your story does not start here in the United States, but starts with you growing up. What was life like growing up for you? It was rugby always something that was part of your life, or something that you fell into?
Oh, well, I mean, coming from South Africa, rugby is it's just one of those things you grow up with as a young boy back in South Africa. Same way kids grow up with football over here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you can open your eyes and walk on both your feet, you just start picking up the first ball you can get your hands on and start throwing it around. And that's pretty much how most boys just get into playing back
There you
home.
go.
So we
There you
start
go.
early. We start early back at
Yeah,
home.
so for what I understand, you started early, went into high school, then you also got into the Western Province Rugby Institute in 2011. Was that always walk me through it? Is that something that is for is on the checklist for every South African kid, or is it just for those that really start to take that next step into rugby?
So I was privileged to have the opportunity to join the Western Province Rugby Institute in 2012. First year out of high school, it was quite a big opportunity for me, which most boys back home unfortunately don't get. But in saying that, there are so many different pathways to making it into the big leagues back home. So
Hmm.
everyone's pathway is different, but the opportunity is always there for the ones that want it the most. I was just lucky to get that opportunity, and yeah, just took it with both hands and try to make the most of it.
Now, you said rugby is something that is pretty much just a given for South African kids in South Africa. But now that next step, is that something that even your parents were very supportive of too? Or were there like, because here in America, there is a limit to some kids growing up, Sure, parents are very supportive, but once you get to like post high school, college, unless you really have that, it's some parents start to go, maybe we should think about something else, right? Were your parents very supportive and just saying, hey, you want to do rugby? Go for it.
Well, I mean, yeah, my parents were very supportive from the start. I mean, there were times, especially in high school, I remember the one time I played a high school game and ended up breaking my collarbone.
Oh,
And that's pretty much when my parents told me I'm done with
oh.
rugby. So,
Hmm.
and I mean, I was supposed to be out for about 6 weeks, and I just kind of quietly went behind their backs, going to trainings after 4 weeks. And next thing they knew, I was back on the pitch playing, and there was just really nothing they could do to stop me.
Oh.
But as you say, there comes a point where parents kind of start consulting their kids more as they can see if things might work out or not. I mean, you never really know, but there definitely comes a point in time where you have to make a decision. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, not everyone can make the cut to go and play for big teams and big leagues and make a career out of it. So yeah, there comes a point where you have to make a decision whether you're just gonna move into your professional career, whichever way that might go, and whether you're gonna just try and stick it out and give rugby a proper shot. So, and it's always a difficult decision to make. Because I mean, obviously, everyone, if you enjoy the game, it's hard to just stop playing. But
Sure.
yeah, unfortunately, that's part of life. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's for someone it works out, for someone it works out somewhere else.
Yeah. So then, do you know, was it that point? Was it that collarbone breaking and you said, "No, I'm sticking with this," or was there another point where you realized this is what I want to do? Like, I don't want to go back to something else. I don't want to do a 9 to 5 job. I really want to do rugby. Do you remember where that point was?
Yeah, I actually do. I mean, the collarbone was, I wouldn't really call it, maybe it was the point for my parents.
Mm.
But for me, I mean, I was not going to quit playing rugby in school. Otherwise, I would have to spend more time doing homework. So, but I carried on playing through high school. But I think my final year of high school, probably actually when I was 16, I kind of started, in a way, kind of giving up on the whole rugby thing because I
Mm.
was a pretty good cricket player as well. And
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, so I spent more time like focusing on my cricket than the
Interesting.
rugby because that I kind of already decided that I was going to try and give cricket a crack.
Mm.
But I still played rugby just to stay busy during the winter times, and it was always still fun.
Mm.
I just didn't take it as serious as I did the cricket. And I just like final year of high school, I just started getting these opportunities with the rugby, and
Mm.
I mean, I took it. I got good opportunities to actually start a career in cricket as well.
Mm.
And I kind of took the rugby for a gap year just to kind of pass time, and then I would start my cricket career later on in my first year out of high school. And I ended up just doing well, pretty well. That like when I went to the Western Province Rugby Institute, things just kind of worked out funny enough. And I ended up getting a signed for a year, played in the championship. We won the championship.
Right. Right.
And they signed me for another year. So I delayed the cricket for another year. I thought I could still, I could still go back.
Sure.
And we won the championship again. And that was two
Right.
years running now. And it was just funny. It was
Sure.
almost like a joke that's getting played on me.
Mm.
And they just kept on signing me for another year. And so after my second 1 year deal, that's when I debuted Super Rugby for
Mm.
for the main team of the club.
Right.
And I would say that was probably the point where I thought, like, you know what, I'm actually going somewhere with this.
Mm.
And that's when I really fully committed myself to just taking this as far as I could. I had opportunities that boys of my age could only dream of. So yeah, that's pretty much where I decided I'm just going to have a full go at it and see where we end up.
Yeah, that's cool. Well,
Yeah.
now let's because again, cricket, rugby, two completely foreign sports to us here in America. How big is cricket in South America and South Africa?
Well, cricket is it's pretty huge in South Africa.
Okay.
It's always been a big sport in South Africa. I would almost say it's level with rugby.
Really?
So
Wow, I didn't
yeah,
know
you
that.
especially
Oh.
like in high school and stuff, the cricket would be like a summer sport. So everyone would
Mm.
play cricket in the summer, and then when it starts going into winter, then the same kids that play cricket just go
Go to
straight into
rugby.
rugby, and you just go
Interesting.
like vice versa like that every year. So most rugby players are good cricket players in South Africa.
Wow, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Interesting. Interesting. So in another world, we might be it might be Jurie Van Vuuren the cricket star, not
yeah.
Jurie Van Vuuren the rugby star. That's
Well,
interesting.
at least that's what I thought initially.
Of course, of course. Now let's go a couple years further. So again, you kind of already hit the high points with that Western Province, won a couple of championships there. Uh, Now all of a sudden you have this opportunity to maybe play internationally. How did the opportunity come about to go to Major League Rugby in the States?
Well, I was at Western Province in the Stormers for about 7 years out of high school, so I spent quite a lot of time down there. And with Super Rugby, we would tour like New Zealand and Australia and stuff. And that's actually when I started really going outside of South Africa a lot more often and just enjoyed it so much, being in other countries and like learning about their cultures and seeing how they do things. And it was always a good experience. And when I left the Western Province and Stormers set up, I went to the Southern Kings, which is in Port Elizabeth
Mm-hmm.
in South Africa. And I spent 2 seasons there playing Pro 14, and that was more traveling,
Mm-hmm.
just more to the UK, going to other countries that I've never been,
Right.
and I just enjoyed it so much that I decided at one point, you know what? Now, like after my 2 seasons with the Southern Kings, I decided maybe it's a good time now to go and explore
Hmm.
actually playing outside for a team that's based outside of South Africa. And I didn't really have a specific team in mind. I just knew I wanted to go somewhere outside of South Africa. And we were looking around everywhere, France, and ultimately I decided, you know, at USA, it's a whole new league. It's probably going to grow really quickly. And I kind of wonder, it would be good if I could get in here before it becomes increasingly harder to get into this
Right.
league, especially for foreign players with the whole
Right.
visa issues and stuff.
Right. Right.
And luckily, my resume looked pretty all right. So I managed to secure a good visa and come over here. I got a good deal initially with Utah.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's pretty much how it all started for me in the MLR.
Interesting. Now, of course, I'm sure, we started with kind of the fairy book start with all of a sudden championship, 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 traveling the world. Then you come to Utah, but it's 2020, and all of a sudden COVID breaks out. And you
Yeah,
only get to play you only get to play a truncated season of 5 games. What was going through your mind with that when all of a sudden it seemed like the whole world shut down, and now this opportunity to play in America may not be happening? I mean, what was going through your head during
that was a very weird time,
that?
to be
Right.
honest. I mean, I enjoyed everything up until COVID shut everything down. I had a great time in Salt Lake City.
Hmm.
I really actually enjoyed the place, the people. I felt good. I felt like I was a new player. Like it was like my career started all over again. And everything was just felt so brand new. And the team was actually going well. Like
Yeah.
we started off well that season. And so it was a big disappointment that the season got cut short while we were kind of feeling like we might go quite far that season. So, but it was a very weird time and
Hmm.
obviously a lot of uncertainty, especially if you look at how other teams in other leagues and all kinds of sports, how they were handling the whole thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
It raised a lot of questions like, is this even going to happen again
Hmm.
afterwards? Or
Hmm.
no one knew what was going to happen. But at the end of the day, I feel like Major League Rugby, they handled the thing well. All the players got well looked after. So they really well handled it compared to a lot of other leagues and sports and stuff. They handled it pretty well.
Awesome. So then now after COVID kind of died down a little bit, life kind of restarted and everything started going fine. Had a very good career in Utah for a couple of years, 50 caps as well in Major League Rugby. So quite a bit of time. You said you enjoyed your time in Utah. How was it? 50 caps in Major League Rugby. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good milestone. That's really,
Yeah, it's a great
especially in,
milestone.
in this league, there's not a lot. I mean, thinking about it now, there are guys that I remember playing against then. They're only getting their 50th caps this coming weekend.
Right.
And I'm thinking, like, how did I get mine like 2 years ago already?
Sure.
So, yeah, it was a big milestone. I was always aiming to get at least past the 50 mark.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed getting that milestone behind my name. And yeah, it's special.
There you go. Now, let's talk about some people might not know, but you also have been spending time with Tel Aviv Heat, Israel's very first professional rugby team. How did the Tel Aviv Heat come about for you?
Yeah, that is a good time. So I mean I know the head coach of Tel Aviv Heat because I mean when I played for the University of Stellenbosch back in Cape Town,
Mm,
he used to coach our rival team, which is the University of Cape Town, and that's pretty much how we knew each other. Kind of, he's been kind of involved with the Western Province rugby team and the setups over there as well. And when he became the head coach of Tel Aviv Heat, like that team is almost like a barbarians team at the end of the
right.
day.
Sure.
So and then yeah, he hit me up with the opportunity to come and play for them. And I've seen a lot of things about the team before I went for my first season, and it always looked like so much fun. And it's
Hmm.
just something I'd enjoy doing in the off season,
Hmm.
especially because the off season is so long. That was the most ideal opportunity for me to go and just explore a whole different side of rugby in the most random places that no one would think
Yeah,
rugby is even
yeah.
played.
Israel, yeah, the whole
Yeah,
place.
beautiful place.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure. So, are you hit me provide me with the information? Are you still with the Tel Aviv Heat, or how's that going about?
Well, I'm still a part of the Tel Aviv Heat. Yes, unfortunately, with all the wars going on, they had
Uh,
to unfortunately just put a pause on things until further notice.
got
I
it.
know they have a sevens division as well, and they are
Yes,
still fully operational.
yes,
So
yes,
they've still been going on with all their sevens competitions and stuff that they
yes.
play. It's
Yeah,
just unfortunately the 15 man team has just been put on hold for now.
that's a shame. That's a
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully everyone can just make peace and we can start playing again.
yeah, yeah. That's if only life was that simple, right?
Yeah,
I mean, seems like it should be. Now,
yeah.
so let's talk about now what's been going on in the recent for you. So from Utah, you get traded to Rugby ATL, but then all of a sudden, Rugby ATL is no more. So now walk me through this. Did you know when you were being traded to ATL that ATL was going to turn into LA, or did you not know about any of that until after you got traded?
Oh, okay. I did know. I did
Okay,
know well in advance.
okay, okay.
Just because of Pete Sickle, who's our CEO. He's the CEO of Tel Aviv as well, and we have a very good relationship.
Sure.
And when I went into the market to get traded,
Mhm.
that's when I was actually in talks with San Diego, and we
Oh,
were we were very close to closing a deal.
oh, really?
And then
Wow.
that's when Pete and them had decided to move ATL down and start LA up again.
Mhm.
And he just one afternoon, I was just sitting at home getting ready to get a workout done, and he just messaged me, "Welcome to LA." And the team wasn't even a team yet, but he just told me, "Welcome to LA," and I was like, "Yeah, I should have expected him to do something like that." So that
Yes,
was very pleasant. That was a very pleasant. I mean, I was
sure.
all for that trade, especially working with people that I know and trust.
Mm.
I didn't have to think twice.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that because of the Pete Sickle connection, who, yes, is the CEO of RFCLA, also of the Tel Aviv Heat. Me being kind of a low key investigator, when I started hearing about the RFCLA team and starting to see who was in charge and everything, also started seeing the roster as well. I found out that same connection with the Tel Aviv Heat. So I started putting two together, going, oh, then maybe some of these other players will be joining. Sure enough, Semi was
yeah,
announced, Jordan Chait was announced,
yeah,
Max was announced, now Saunders was announced. So it's like, oh my God, we're getting all these people. So Yuri too, right? Yeah, you were
yeah,
announced. Like, oh,
yeah.
it's all connected.
Yeah, no, it
So
was good. It was good. It was good to just come here as well with knowing a bunch of the guys. So it
right.
just made the transition so much easier.
Sure, sure. Now let's talk about that year one. So year one, I've spoken to a few of your other teammates, and the word that kind of came about with year one was a little bit of frustration, maybe a little bit of disappointment. We'll be honest, looking back, year one was a tough one for RFCLA. But what is your assessment looking back at year one for LA?
Year one was, yeah, like you said, it was a tough one. I think we really had super high expectations,
Mm,
and maybe we were just kind of how can I say? We were just kind of trying to put ourselves like up with the previous LA team, who obviously just came in and they were just fireworks from the get-go.
yeah, yeah.
And we just kind of put it on ourselves that, yeah, we should be the same. And it
Mm,
doesn't always work like that. And the fact that we had a ton of injuries also didn't help. So it was frustrating. But then again, for a year one team, we did well better than most year one teams in this league, which
and
is, it's kind of, yeah, it's sad that all these other things overshadowed that. But
sure.
yeah, no, at the end of the day, considering it was our first season, it was we scrapped it out and tried to make the best of what we could of the situation.
Right, right. Because again, like you mentioned before, I mean, it might be, and I'll agree because being an LA native, being an LA super fan of rugby, I was there with the LA Guild teammates as well. And yeah, you kind of do walk in going, well, first year LA Guillotines, we won a championship. So first year RCLA should win a championship, right?
Yeah.
Expectations, yeah, it does seem a little unfair to put you guys
Yeah.
there. And again, people do kind of forget. You look at the Dallas Jackals. You look at Anthem. First year, neither team won one game. You
Yeah.
guys won three, four,
Four. I
four
think 4 and
games.
1 draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not 0 wins, so definitely it's a
Yeah.
good thing. So I get it. I get that. And you mentioned about the injuries, so let's talk about that. Unfortunately for you, Jurie, you suffered a pretty severe injury about 4 weeks, 5 weeks into the season.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
So let's talk about that. What happened, and how did you go about coping with that?
Yeah, so unfortunately last year, as you said, 4 or 5 weeks into the season, I think it was, we played Utah, was the last game I played, and we had a bye week after that. And we kind of just came together like on the back end of the bye week just to kind of get the legs moving, just keep everyone sharp, and just did like skills, nothing major, like training session. And yeah, I just tore my Achilles,
Ugh.
like no contact, nothing, just
Mm.
started running and it just detached from my heel. And
Oh,
yeah, I mean, that was one of the injuries that I've always dreaded ever getting.
sure.
Um, so that was a huge disappointment. I thought I was going pretty well up until that point.
Mm.
So yeah, that was a tough one. That was a tough
Yeah.
one.
Now, so obviously, we all know. Well, those who are familiar with sports and or competitive sports athletes or former competitive sports athletes know that the sport is very mental. So obviously, like you said, an injury that you were dreading, you hoped that you never got. It was a very severe injury. It took you out of the season. What was going through your mind as you were going through rehabbing it and now trying to look towards the next season?
Well, I mean, I think like as literally as soon as it happened, as soon as I realized what had happened, I kind of forced myself to immediately just switch, just make that switch, because I knew as the quicker I can just switch into being some positive somehow. I didn't know where I was going to get the positivity from, but I knew that if I didn't flip that switch, it was going to be hard. It was going to be a long, long comeback. And I mean, because I know how mentally challenging that could be.
Mm-hmm.
All the voices in your head just say a lot of things to you, and I just couldn't let that happen. And yeah, I just started immediately thinking of, well, let me just get this thing fixed as quick as possible so I can get back as quick as possible. And while I'm at it, just see what I can still add to the team. I mean, I
Mm.
can't play, but there's always something you can add. There's always places you can add value. So that was pretty much my mindset, just going through the season right until the end. And with my rehab as well, it was a long, very long journey. It was tough. It was hard, a lot harder than I ever thought it would be. But I mean, yeah, it's been a journey that's made me grow quite a lot. And
That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, the only way you get through something like that is by being resilient. So yeah, it was a journey that I definitely won't forget. And yeah, the recovery's been amazing. I feel great now. That I'm honestly so happy with the work that's been done on me, and it's just good to be back playing again.
That's awesome. And it is great to see you back on the pitch because I know you've probably been sick of hearing me ask you like, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? And
You weren't the
now,
only one.
as we mentioned, you did make your return to the pitch a couple of weeks ago. How great was that to be back on the pitch with your boys in RCLA for the first time in a long time?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was so special. I mean, I've been waiting for that day for pretty much a year since I tore
Mm-hmm.
my Achilles, and I just couldn't wait to get back out there. And I mean, I wasn't selected for the first 3 games,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't let that get to my head because we actually have a pretty good squad this year. And I mean, you could almost pick anyone and they'll probably get you a result. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, we've had a slow start this season. So having us get our first win of the season on my first game back was pretty special. I really
There
enjoyed
you
that
go.
one a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that, and we'll talk about that now because again, it seemed almost like deja vu, right? First three games of last season were unfortunate losses. First three games of this season, unfortunate losses.
Yeah.
So what was the atmosphere like with the boys in the locker room? Were there maybe kind of thoughts of, oh my God, are we going through this again? Or were we kind of looking, no, this is a new year, this new team, it's not going to happen again?
Honestly, I'm sure there would have definitely been guys thinking, is this going to be the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
But the guys are pretty good at like lifting each other up and just getting each other in a good headspace. I I expected us to have a better start, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's still early in the season, and we managed to correct that luckily in the last couple of weeks, which
Oh
is
yeah.
good. So we just hopefully peaking at the right time.
Now, how do you? We've also talked about this with some of your teammates from comparing year one to year two. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes. We do have a lot of new players that have coming in. You have a completely new coaching staff now. You know, you have Coach Hoyles, you got Dave Dennis, you got Sam Harris now, all coaches. Have you noticed a difference with the RFCLA, with the atmosphere with RFCLA, or is it still kind of the same? It's just a little bit of a different approach.
There's definitely a change. It almost feels like a whole new everything.
Okay.
It is pretty much a whole new everything, but
Mm-hmm.
like it's definitely a step in the right direction. I like the way we do things. I like the way the coaches approach our training sessions and the way they do things is kind of more what I'm used to or the way I'm used to training, which
Oh,
is
okay.
very comfortable for me. And yeah, I think the biggest challenge is probably just getting all these new different players on the same page
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
getting that team chemistry going. But the boys definitely get along very, very well. Just a few small kinks we had to iron out on the field, and but
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, yeah, well, it's beginning to look good for us. Guys are clicking. The chemistry is definitely up there. So yeah, things are slowly starting to come together.
Great. Yeah. And like you said, it's clicking. First time in franchise history, 3 game win streak.
Yeah.
Hoping, knock on wood, I'm not jinxing it, but 3 game win streak. Hopefully, they take that to 4. So let's talk about that game coming up this weekend. It's a away game. You guys are taking the flight over to Houston. Now, again, Houston was one of those games that we've already played at home, and it was a kind of a weird game because we were up what was it, like 21-8 or something in the first half. Everything was looking great, and then the second half all of a sudden just completely fell apart. What is, if you can reveal anything, I don't want you giving away any secrets or anything, but what is the approach the boys and the coaching staff are having with this game going over to Houston?
Yeah, as you said, the first game was a bit of a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a game of two halves.
Right.
So going into this weekend, I mean, we know they probably won't change too much. They haven't changed much over the last like 3 or 4 seasons. So
Mm-hmm.
we know exactly what we're going to face and go up against, and it's just about correcting the stuff we did wrong and staying in it for the whole 80 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there anybody, again, you've been playing for quite a bit now with Major League Rugby. You're considered a veteran because you already have the 50 caps going on past that now. Is there anybody on the Houston side that you're looking forward to clashing with, or anyone on the side you're kind of maybe weary of clashing with in the Houston Sabercats?
I would say the eighth man, Tufua.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I've ever played against him. I
Uh,
actually, yeah, I think maybe last year once,
mm-hmm.
but I mean, he's become a different player since that game.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to going up against him toe to toe. I've been looking forward to it. Unfortunately, didn't get the opportunity in the first game they played over
Right.
here, but luckily, I'm going to get an opportunity this weekend. So I'm looking forward to that.
There you go. Is there anybody? I've spoken again to some of your teammates. Sometimes you guys do kind of focus on certain players of teams, especially players that have been pretty hot. For example, you know, AJ Alatimu has been pretty good for the Sabercats. Davey Kutsia has been very good for the Sabercats as well. Is there anybody on the team that you're kind of keeping an eye out for, just because you know that they might be game changers when they play against you guys?
I mean, we'll get games where we might focus a bit more on individual guys, but this weekend everyone's got a target on their back, so
Mm.
no one special. Everyone's a target this weekend.
There you go. Now, you've mentioned that you like to you started falling in love with the traveling and playing in other places. Do you have any when you travel, because this is a travel game, do you have any little rituals that you do when you get ready for an away game compared to when you're playing a home game, or is preparation the same regardless where you're at?
Well, mine is pretty much, I try and keep it consistent regardless if I'm traveling or staying at home. Obviously, traveling, you have to make a few changes here and there depending on traveling times and stuff, but I try and keep it as the same as possible. And yeah, don't overthink anything too much.
There you go.
Yeah, just
There
try and relax.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, again, you've been traveling around the world for some of your rugby, playing in places that, like you said, like Israel, that you don't not expecting to see rugby. Out of all your travels, has there been a place that you've absolutely just loved playing in, or that just have blown you away on your experience?
Oh man, it's going to be hard to mention one,
Sure. Well, mention a
but
couple. Mention a couple
I
that
mean, I
pop.
would say definitely Sydney,
Okay.
Australia, always a
Nice.
special place for me. I always have a good time over there.
Hmm.
And yeah, I would say maybe London
Oh,
as
okay.
well. Yeah, I have great memories playing in London as well. So those are probably at the top of my list. You could probably add Glasgow and Dublin as well.
Oh, nice. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I
Nice.
would say those are probably the top ones for me.
There you go. Now, I know you still have quite a few years left with you on the rugby pitch, or at least I feel that. I maybe you might feel a little bit differently because you're the one taking the hits and everything. But I feel you have a lot of years left on the rugby pitch. You've had 50 over 50 caps here. Are you looking to that 100 caps here in Major League Rugby, or is that something you're even focusing on?
I mean, I'm not, after I've hit the 50 cap mark, I hadn't thought about it too much. And I mean, I missed out on quite a few last season, unfortunately,
Sure,
with my injury. So, but I
sure.
mean, they do come up so quickly. So who knows, maybe before I wipe my eyes out, I'll be right up there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Now let's take the moment, talk a little bit about your team and some of your new teammates. Is there anybody on this new roster, and you can even pick somebody from the OG year one that you came along with? Anybody on the roster that has really been impressing you so far this season for RFCLA?
Ben Houston.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've been impressed with that
yeah,
kid. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
he's a
obviously, I don't know him from anywhere, but he
mhm.
came in and he's been really good.
Yeah, he's
He's
a
been really good.
big, fast dude for his size.
Yeah, I enjoy the way he plays a lot.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's good to have him.
yeah. Uh, for us RFCLA fans who may not be too familiar with the roster, other than Ben Houston, who yes, you should definitely keep an eye on. Is there any of the other youngsters that maybe we should be keeping an eye on that could be possible future franchise players, future Major League Rugby MVPs?
Well, there's a few I could mention. I don't know how
Yeah,
long Sammy is going to hang around. Yeah, he'll definitely be up there.
sure.
Andrew Coe,
Mm,
unbelievable,
of course.
unbelievable. And I mean, Jurie Van Vuuren himself is just
Hmm.
phenomenal. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's good to have guys like that on your side.
Yeah, yeah, those guys are amazing. And then this is always a fun one. You saw the videos that I've done with. You mentioned Andrew Coe and with Matt Heaton. Is there anybody on the roster? Because I assume you're a hard hitting dude because you look like you've hit some people and they give you a kind of a second look like, oh man, when you see them get hit. Is there anybody on the team RFCLA who've hit you that's made you think twice, like, whoa, I don't think I want to get hit by him again? Is there anybody on the squad that's done that with you?
Regan.
Who?
Regan O'Gorman.
Oh yeah, that's what they were
Yeah,
saying.
I'd
He
say
hits
Regan.
hard. He
Oh,
hits hard.
Regan is he's a tank.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Okay, we're gonna be wrapping up this one in just a bit. Before that, a couple of questions to get to know you a little bit more. In your spare time, I don't know how much spare time that you get with all that you do, but in your spare time, what do you like to do outside of rugby? Is there anything that you like to do outside?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a, I would say in my free time, probably now, most of the time, I like to do stock trading. I actually
Oh,
do stock
interesting.
trading. So day
Oh,
trading, yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
And if not that, probably I DJ as I DJ as a hobby.
It's interesting.
So
It seems like almost every RFCLA or LA Guild TV's player, you guys all love the DJ. Like all you guys,
I was pretty surprised to see how many of them actually had the same hobby
yeah,
when
you guys
I
all
came here.
DJ. You guys all DJ. It seems like that's like the go-to. If you're a rugby player, you love the DJ. You love to put music together.
Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I've been doing it for quite some time now, so it's been a hobby that I've been practicing for
That's awesome.
quite a long time now. Yeah.
Now the stock one, that's interesting too. Have you been doing the stocks for very long, or is that like a newer hobby? Or
It's a bit newer. I would say probably for the last 3 or 4 years.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So
know maybe right now it's a little bit crazy with everything
it's
going
pretty
on.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's interesting. That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
I do enjoy that a lot. Yeah.
That's cool. That's very, very cool. All right, last thing. So, obviously, the purpose of this channel is all about promoting rugby here in the United States to fans that are kind of getting into it or fans that don't really know too much about it, might want to be more. If you had someone approaching you and asking you, so what is this rugby thing? Well, like, why should I get into it? What is it about rugby that I should be into? What would your answer be to
Well, I mean, I saw a thing the other day that said it's the best time you can have with 13 other guys in a hooker.
them?
But I would say, yeah, I mean, if you like sport that's like maybe a little more rough,
Mhm.
hard hitting, fast paced action, no pads, no helmets, then you definitely enjoy this. It might be a little confusing in the beginning, but
Sure.
you stick around, you'll figure it out.
There you go. That's perfect. I love that. And Jurie, is there any you're on social media? Do you want to shout out your social media just if you want anyone following for Instagram and all that?
Not too active on there, but if anyone wants to give a follow, I'll check it out eventually at some point. So yeah, give me a follow if you want, and yeah, stay in
Sure.
touch.
And I'll put that down on the scroll at the bottom when I edit this. But Jurie, thank you very much. Like I said, I don't think there's a nicer guy that I've met from my time of talking to rugby players. You are definitely one of the best dudes to talk to. Always have a big smile on your face, even when you were hobbling around when you were hurt. You still had a big smile on your face, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you. So I'm very glad that we were able to do this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and again, we're going to see the boys playing against Houston. That's going to be Saturday. I believe the start time is supposed to be 5. I thought it was 6, but it might be 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah,
We'll check on that, but we'll of course have a watch party in LA at Tower 12. So if those of you in the LA area going to be there, I'll be there. Jurie, of course, will be in Houston playing, where we'll be, of course, rooting on for victory number 4 in a row for RFCLA.
yeah, let's
So,
go.
so Jurie, again, good luck, have a safe trip, and go RFCLA. And thank you very much for being here on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, fans, for watching, and we'll see you on the pitch.